Hello everybody, I'm the Trapbox Gamer. Welcome back to Minecraft. We're doing the peaceful run. These two are eating me out of house and home and not giving me any kids. Look, I just need a weak one. I just need a weak one. You're already big. You two. More. You know what? Seeing as this is where this video is going to be about mainly, I guess I'll just tell everybody about stuff, I guess, while we wait for a population of pandas to pop up. Look at them. Eating with no care in the world. And of course you do that when you're not ready. So since we're gonna be around, around pandas, talking to the... Oh, that actually worked? I thought I messed up. Huh. Not what I wanted. I was hoping for the weak variant. Anyway, while we wait for a weak version to pop up, I'm gonna talk about zombies, because why not? We're surrounded by cute pandas. That correlates to zombies pretty well, don't you think? I have to say, my least favorite zombie trope that I could think of is there's always somebody that gets bit for a stupid reason. There's always... Okay, now, if the zombies were special zombies, like, okay, they ran fast, or have other special abilities, I might give that a pass, because these aren't just normal zombies. They're zombies that could keep up with you, mess you up in different ways. But I kind of draw the line at the slow zombie. Like, you're telling me that you've been in this world for a good amount of time, dealing with the apocalypse, and yet the slow zombie's the one that bit you? At one point, have you not, like, take precaution about, I don't know, getting something a little more bite-proof? Granted, yeah, zombie apocalypse might be a little difficult to find something that's bite-proof, but still, at least some more padding to make it harder for you to get bits. And it's always the same way, too, if you think about it. Somebody gets bit when they're not paying attention. Not saying that's always a bad thing. Maybe they're in a high-stress situation, but say they're just messing about, not paying attention, and then they get bit. You have to admit, that's a stupid way to go. If I were in a zombie universe, if I was in a zombie... I guess it depends on the type of zombie that I'm dealing with, because, well, if you take into account the walker zombie, they are just as they say, they walk. I mean, yeah, they're dangerous, but as long as you keep a good pace and don't get cornered, you should be fine. I guess the only other threat you have to deal with would be the sheer amount of zombies to fight. I mean, when half the world is gone, you have to deal with half the world's remains, and that being zombified corpse huddling towards you. So, while they're not fast and dangerous like other special types of zombies, they do kind of outnumber you. What's worse is that I think, if I recall correctly, actually I think this is just a fact for all zombies, is that they are attracted to sound, so it's not like you could get like a gun and just start popping them off without drawing in more. And even if you decide to go silent by using a melee weapon, you're still gonna get tired at one point. So, that's always a threat. I mean, there are other things you have to be worried about, like, is it an airborne virus? Do you get... Is there immunities? Like, are you gonna be immune? Are you not immune? Like, is that something that you have to worry about? Because if you're not immune, well, you're kind of cooked. And even if you are immune, well, congratulations. Just because you're immune to the virus doesn't mean you're not immune to death. You're still gonna get mauled. And if we're going with the whole Walking Dead thing, well, if you die, are you just gonna come back regardless? Because if that's the case, then, well, I mean, you could survive for years and years, but when you go, you're still coming back. That's gotta suck, especially for friends and family that you survived with. Like, dang. To be fair, I think that if I were in a zombie universe, if I was in some zombie world, I think that the way I would get done in wouldn't be by the zombie. Again, this varies. Like, it depends on what, like, Am I in the Left 4 Dead world? Am I in the Resident Evil world? Because those I can see the zombies taking me out. But I'm saying like Walking Dead, something with slow zombies. Like if that's the case, then you know, the thing that probably would take me out would be people. One, I'm a very nice guy, so I would try to help everybody. You could see where this would get me in a lot of trouble. Two, you know what, I'm not gonna say I'm too trusting, because if I get a red flag, I follow up on that red flag, but I'm just gonna say that, yeah, I could see me trying to help people be the thing that does me in. And just let me clarify when I say this, it's not like I would see someone that looked like a raider and be all like, okay, let me help you, you're a fellow person, we need to be in the... No, I'm not that stupid. I know not to trust any raiders. Or at least anyone that gives off raider vibes. Like, I'm nice, but I'm not dumb. At least, I'm not that dumb. You know what? I'm gonna do a little rating system on how I'd survive in each zombie thing that I could think of. Since I've been already kind of talking about The Walking Dead, I'm gonna talk about The Walking Dead first. So, first off, Walking Dead. Survival rating, I give myself... you know what? This depends. Depends on who I'm with, and depends on how things are going. It's gonna it's gonna be varied. It's gonna be very varied. Because, say that I'm on my own. That's dangerous. That's very dangerous. If I'm on my own, my survival rating is probably gonna be very low. I mean, that's probably a given for most zombie media. If you're alone, your survival rating is going to be a lot more difficult. But say we're in The Walking Dead, I have a group, we're probably going to be well established. Let's just have that as a scenario, so I'm not overthinking too many too many variables to overthink. So let's say that at the very minimum, I've survived the first initial outbreak. I've been surviving with a group. I'd say that my chances of survival are slightly better. Probably slightly better. I'd say... Well, it's The Walking Dead. If we could go by the show, something's bound to happen. Like, there's always gonna be... You're stuck, aren't you? You know what? I'm gonna give it 5 out of 10. 50-50. I feel that's fair, because there's always gonna be some new variable that we have to fight every day. There's always gonna be something that could put us at risk. Oh hey, they brought out a weak one! Sneeze. Sneeze. Aww. No slime ball yet. They are kind of a rare thing too, so... Dang. Anyway, like I was saying, I say in the Walking Dead universe, I give myself 5 out of 10. Under the condition that I'm in a well-established... Well, in a group. They don't have to be well-established, they just have to be in a group. As long as I'm in a group, there's some defined rules that I follow, I think I would have like a 5 out of 10. 50-50, because, you know, you never know what's gonna happen. And if you're wondering why I have said defined rules, well, like I said earlier, I'd probably get killed by trying to do the nice thing, so they really shouldn't have me going out scavenging for stuff, because if I were to go out and scavenge and say found somebody, I'd be constantly bringing in strays. You never know which stray is going to be a good stray. You never know, but at the same time, that's going to be more mouths to feed. And say that, okay, say that I don't bring in strays, say that I try to help people. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be risking myself to help someone that I just met, so they really shouldn't have me going out on scouting missions when that's always going to be a liability. Now, if I were on my own... Oh, well... You know what? I want to say 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. There's a good chance that I'm going to die. But there's also a chance that I might survive. I mean, less people means less noise. Less noise, less attracting the zombie. And if I picked up that whole zombie camouflage trick, I might survive pretty well against the zombies. But say that I run into survivors and I'm using that trick, then, well, yeah, yeah, it was pretty good enough to fool both humans and zombies. Let's just leave it at that. Next up will be Resident Evil, at least the early entries in the series, and I'm just gonna say this right now, personally, 1 out of 10. You wanna know why? Think of every protagonist in Resident Evil. At least the early games. Think every protagonist with the actual zombies in Resident Evil. Who were they? For the most part, people with some form of training with firearms or, you know, combat effectiveness. So, yeah, I don't have that. I do not have that, so I probably won't be as adaptive as they are. I panic, I freak out, I probably get killed running into a zombie. The only counterpoint that I could think of that I could say about the average person who probably won't do too well would be with Claire, because I think when you play as her for the first time in the series, she doesn't really have any formal training. Granted, I think it might be implied that Chris taught her how to handle a gun or do some very basic stuff, so that's a plus for her, but it still says that, hey, as long as you keep your wit about ya, don't do anything too stupid, you should be fine. I mean, there are going to be a lot of zombies, like, that's the only thing that's going to be kind of helping me out here, is that they're slow zombies. There are a lot of them, and they are tanky, but they are very slow. If we're going by with the game, if you run past them, you could probably run past them without them actually hitting you or, you know, taking a bite out of you. I said probably. I didn't say definitely. There's always that chance they could, especially the... Say you're going down a corridor and you see like a bunch of them. There's a chance you're probably going to get grabbed, but there's also a chance that you might not get grabbed. Which also reminds me, the zombies in that game can be... Again, really? The zombies in that game can be easily staggered. Like, very easily staggered. You might not be able to take them out, but you could stagger them for a moment. It'll give you a few seconds to run off. So, yeah. You know what? Now thinking about that, I want to say that my... Oops, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, poor baby. I'm sorry. Oh. Well, thank goodness none of them were aggressive. If I did that, they definitely come after me, but... Yeah, okay, now that I think about it, since I could stagger them, my my survival rating goes up slightly. I want to say, to be safe, let's put it at a 2. I don't feel too confident at 3, but I feel like confident at 2. Like, 2 feels kind of fitting. You know, if I wanted to be technical, I guess I could have used Ethan Winters as another counterpoint. Like, he was somebody who didn't have any training, and in his first debut, I think he'd be like a perfect example of someone who would be a common person getting thrown into a Resident Evil-like scenario, but I think at that point in the game, they stopped, like, doing zombies, like, or at least, like, yeah, if we keep going through the series, I'm gonna have to talk about the BOWs, which, yeah, that 2 out of 10, that nice high and mighty 2 out of 10, that's gonna be a 0 out of 10, my friends. I'm dead. I'm dead to those things. Even the common, even the lickers have a good chance of ripping me apart. Like, yeah, I am good as dead if I fight them. So let's just keep to the zombies. I like the survival aspect of things. Alright, so the next game will be The Last of Us. I will be going over part 1 as I haven't played 2 to know the infected types. Granted, I am aware of the Rat King. I just don't know if there's any other new infected to that game. So we're just not going to cover The Last of Us 2. We're going to be going with 1. First up will be your clicker. They're blind, which might give you some bonus points. Might do me some good, but the thing is that they could still hear you pretty well. They are hey, one-hit kill, my friend. They grab you, unless you have something sharp on you, it's game over. Absolute game over. Granted, if you could be quiet long enough to get away, you can survive. But the thing about them is that there is a large amount of them. If you find one, there's a good, like, it's highly unlikely you're going to find just one on its own. There's probably going to be one around the corner that if you take out the first one, that one probably heard you take out that one and is coming to come investigate and, well, find you. Not saying it's impossible to fight these things, just saying that you have to be smart and not make too much noise. However, the next one being the runner, think of the clicker, except this one can't see. And they run. They run, as the name indicates, they run at you. I don't think they are as tough as the clicker, so you might have a good chance, but that is me being very optimistic. I don't remember the game too well because it's been years since I played. And even then, I was playing on the hardest difficulty, so... would that be the canon difficulty? Like, just the in-universe difficulty would be, like, grounded? Because I always thought that the hardest difficulty for a survival game, or, you know, zombie game, would be the canon difficulty. So, I think even on grounded, the clicker... not the clickers, the runners can one-tap hit ya. So, yeah, you're probably screwed there, too. Do I even need to talk about the stalkers after this? Because if the, you know, those two enemies could mess with you, this one definitely will, because the stalkers use ambush tactics. They are smart enough to know how to ambush you. Unless you are good with taking a shot while being surprised, yeah, you're probably not gonna get past this guy too easily. And then there's the bloater. With a name like that, you'd think it's some fat zombie, right? Well, it is kind of fat, but it's also a giant, hulking meat sack. Coming for ya. It is slow until it charges, but, you know... Can I just say no, I'm dead? I'm just gonna say no, this thing will kill me. Say I managed to run away from it. Say I do manage to run away from it. It still has a long-range attack by throwing spores at me, and while I did say for most scenarios that you are immune, I'm going to give The Last of Us, like, an exception due to the fact that Ellie was the only one that was uniquely immune. So, yeah, those spores, even in the environment area, will still kill me. So, yeah, no, that thing's just outright decks me out. So, with the zombies, I'd say I have a 1 out of 10. I like 1 out of 10. I feel a little optimistic. I'll give myself a 1 out of 10. I don't think I would outrightly die. Even though I'm not too confident in this. I'm being very generous with myself here. And again, you know, you have the raiders that are also going to be a constant problem. So yeah, the raiders, if it's not the zombies, it's them. So I'll just give myself a 1 out of 10. This would be if I were alone, though. If I was scavenging out on my own. If I were in a group or in a quarantine zone, maybe higher, but I'm still going to say 1 out of 10 for the fact that most of the zombies could just one-tap kill me. Like, honestly. And that one factor is the reason why it's so low. If it weren't, I'd be more positive. I could say, okay, I feel like I could, you know, maybe survive. But since most are just one-hit kills, I'm going to say no. The next game, and probably the last, depends on how long I talk about it, is going to be the Dead Rising series. Now, I'm only going to go with 1 and 2, as I haven't played 3 or 4, to give you a good discussion on the zombies in those games. But with 1 and 2, I could talk about that. So, here's some golden points that we could, you know, like, scratch off right off the bat. The protagonists in the series aren't combat trained. You have Frank West, who was a photojournalist, and you have Chuck Green, who was a ex-motor champ and mechanic. Not exactly, you know, trained in firearms or any weapons like that, but they make do with what they have. Meaning that I feel confident that the average person can make do with what they have. The thing is that there are average people in this game as the survivors, but those guys are dumb. I want to say that's mostly the AI that just makes them stupid. Because I feel like if they had some average intelligence, they wouldn't do the things that they would do. Like, the average person wouldn't run into a middle of a pile of zombies or get stuck trying to run past like an invisible wall or into an object that's just in their way. Like, I think that the average person will be smart enough to bypass all that without incident, which now leads to the zombies. 1 and 2, they're slow and dumb. Yeah, they're slow and dumb. You could stand on top of a kiosk and you'll be safe. You'll be fine. Granted, I know in 2, they introduce a gas zombie, which is slightly faster and more grabby, but that's still not gonna stop. Like, you could still jump up top of a elevated area and you'll be safe. They won't be able to get you. I do have to say that at night they do get a little more aggressive and more competent, but they are still dumb zombies. So, they're not that threatening. Next, again, no real set location, but let's just say that you're in a mall like, you know, Dead Rising 1 or a resort like 2. It kind of doesn't matter if you could literally grab anything in your immediate area and use it as a weapon against the zombies. If you're more crafty like, you know, Chuck is, you could make cool weapons and just take them out. Like, yeah. Now, honestly, these zombies aren't that... They aren't that scary. I mean, the only time they're really scary is if you're trying to get people to safety and they're running into the middle of the zombie horde, which... yeah, it will take you a few seconds, but these people they're kind of like made of glass sometimes. They die easily. You got to be careful for that. Which leads to a very questionable aspect now that I think about it. Being infected. You're not immune. I don't think anybody's immune to the infection from my knowledge of 1 and 2. You can get bit in game. However, people like Frank has been seen getting bit but later infected down the story. And my guess is it's going to be one of those gameplay versus story kind of thing, where, yeah, you got grabbed and bit by a zombie, but we're not going to make you infected at this moment. It's going to be later down the line when the story demands it. Not right now, because, like, imagine you get bit and then you die instantly. Like, that don't make much of a game. That kind of makes it kind of annoying. But regardless, even if you were said to be bit, you can survive. You could definitely survive being bit from the zombies in this game, on the grounds that you don't instantly die from the initial bite. So, there's a drug they have in this universe called Zombrex, which, if you get your hands on it, you have 24 hours before you need your next dose. Forever. Which sounds kinda stacking, not gonna lie, but you will survive. As shown with Dead Rising 2 with Katie. She survived, and it's because of Zombrex. Honestly, I think the only side effect that I could remember from top of my head is fainting, which was shown in Dead Rising 2. And even then, that is a harmless side effect. I'm not sure there's any more, but that's the worst that you have to deal with. I mean, other than if you miss a dose, you turn into a zombie. If that's the worst side effect that you got, it don't sound that bad. I think the worst aspect of the Zombrex, however, would be that I believe the wiki said that the prices for the shots go into the thousands. And it is it's a scarce resource. So, yeah, you either A, have a lot of money, B, know where to get some quickly, or C, you turn into a zombie. So, while you can get bit and survive, you better plan a way how to get more Zombrex for the next day, because if you don't, oh, well, nighty-night, I guess. I was also about to make a whole rant, like, why would they put a price on a drug that keeps people from turning into zombies? Because if somebody misses a dose and they turn to a zombie, that's only going to make more zombies, or more outbreaks, and then I realized, that's kind of the plot of the story. They're doing that on purpose. They're kind of doing that for the reason. So, glad I realized that before I started the whole, like, rant on it. But boy, that's evil. I think that's more scarier than the zombies, really. Which, now that I think about it, another enemy type that you're going to be dealing with would be the psychopaths. See, in each of the series, some people kind of snap during the zombie apocalypse. And, like with most, the people are the more scary aspect of the zombie apocalypse because they're crazy, and unlike zombies, they're not stupid. For the most part, they're not stupid. Now, I would love to say that the psychopaths would be easy to deal with, but we see these guys take out normal people like they're candy. The only people that seem to be really standing a chance would be the main characters, which, you know what, for sake of purposes, I'm not giving us total main character status on the grounds that I feel like that'd be a little cheating. So out of the threats, psychopaths would be the highest threat to deal with. I do want to state that I do feel somewhat confident in getting away from them, as they are just human. They are just human, so I think that you have a good chance of surviving if you know, get the jump on them first. But I think with them, it's more that they get the jump on you rather than you get the jump on them. Like, they surprise you. I think for the most part, most psychopath interactions happen because you walked into a place and some crazy guy was there. Now, if you adapt to that, if you notice danger right away and get the heck out of Dodge, you have a good chance at survival. The only time I think that you won't have a good chance is if they're wielding guns, which, yeah, you know what? I don't know how much of a percentage of that would be. I'm gonna look that up real quick. How many psychopaths use guns in Dead Rising 1 and 2? Alright, so starting with Dead Rising 1, you have Carlito Keys, Isabella Keys, Steven Chapman, Larry Chang, Brock Mason, Cletus Sampson, Kent Swanson, followed by the convicts, which gave them each names, but since these guys kind of respawn, I don't know if I'm gonna count them in this list. Adam, how do you pronounce his last name? He's a clown, so yeah. Cliff Hudson, Joe Slade, the Hall family, which consists of Roger, Jack, and Thomas Hall, Sheen Karen, or not Karen, Kian, I think that's how you pronounce it, Paul Carson, and a helicopter pilot, which I might not count, but I also might count because technically he is firing a gun at you. It's just, it's kind of iffy with this one. I feel like maybe not, but with that being said, the ones that are known to use guns are Carlito Keys, Isabella Keys. Steven Chapman technically uses a gun on you, but his main, like, he's a store guy. He uses his shopping cart, technically, but he will pull out a shotgun on you, which I think that's also why I'm a little iffy with Isabella as well, because she does try to run you down with a motorcycle. She does also have a shotgun, I believe, or maybe it was a handgun. Larry, I think he's a meat hook dude. Brock Mason might seem like he used like guns since he's military, but he does the whole hand-to-hand thing. Cletus uses a shotgun. Kent uses a handgun. The convicts, I'm just gonna count them once. I think two of them use guns on you. The other one drives. Adam, he's a clown. No gun. Cliff, shockingly no. Joe can use a stun gun and a handgun on you. The Hall family, all three of them shoot at you with rifles. Sean, I think he just uses a ceremonial sword. Paul Carson, no. And the helicopter pilot, which technically uses a gun. So out of those group, you have 12 that uses guns on you. And that was for Dead Rising 1. That's 12 out of 19. For Dead Rising 2, we have TK, Amber, and Crystal Bailey. No gun usage there. Dwight Boykin uses a gun. Raymond Sullivan, only in Dead Rising 2, uses a gun. Stacy, only in Off the Record, uses a giant robot, not a gun, but still wouldn't want to deal with that. Leon Bell, only in Dead Rising 2, uses a Slice Cycle, which, if you're wondering what that is a chainsaw mixed with a motorcycle. Up next will be Chuck Drain, the main character of, Dead Rising 2, but in Off the Record he's a psychopath, uses the same weapon as Leon Bell. Evan don't know how to pronounce this last name, but basically the little brother of, you know, Adam the Clown from the first one, so no guns with that. Antoine Thomas, he's the cook dude, he uses only knives and stuff. Seymour Readings is that sheriff dude, which uses a 6-shooter, making him the, let's say, 3rd guy to use a gun. Brent Slappy Ernest here, he has a flamethrower, which I would count not a gun, but he does shoot it out as a gun, so maybe 4. Maybe 4. Randy Tugman, Chainsaw, I don't want to get into that guy, he's a real creep. Hunters, they all use guns, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 added to what we just had, so possibly 8. Carl, he's that one post office dude with the shotgun, so yeah, he counts. Possibly 9 enemies. Theodore Smith and Snowflake, no, I don't think he uses weapons. I think he just smacks you around and sticks his giant tiger on you. Reed Welbeck and Roger Withers, another enemy that uses a weapon that's kind of like a gun, but it's not a gun. He uses a rocket launcher on you that shoots out fireworks, but I have to say that probably be just as bad, so 10, maybe. Brandon Whittaker, which if I recall correctly, doesn't use a gun on you, he uses glass, so he's off the list. Pierce Stephens and Mark Branson, these guys are so weak, I don't even consider them as proper psychopaths, but they both use handguns, so that is a possibility of 12 enemies that use handguns, or use guns on you. 10 if we dismiss Slappy and, you know, Reed Welbeck back there. So, let's do some math. Okay, if we consider those 2 that do count, then the most that we're getting out of the whole list will be 24 out of 43. If we aren't including those, then it'll be 22 out of 43. So let's do some math. We're going to go with the small one first, so the 22 is going to be considered the part. You want to divide it by the whole, which is the 43. With that, we would times it by 100. Now, if you divide 22 into 43, you're going to get like this big decimal number that just rounds out to 0.51. Let's just be honest. Times that by 100, you get 51%. Now, if you go with the higher number, it goes up to 55%. I got a little too into this, so with that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time. Take care, please like and subscribe, and have a great day.